why care about these big changes we see in the Arctic? For so many of us, the Arctic is such a faraway place. So we hear about some of the changes there, but why care? Why does it mean to us? I think one reason we should care about the Arctic is that it is that early warning system. You can think of the old cliches as the canary in the coal mine or something like that, but it's very true. If we look at even our earliest climate models back in the early 1980s, late 1970s, they were telling us is that as global climate begins to warm, the Arctic is going to be leading the way. That's where we're going to see the changes first. That's where the changes are going to be most pronounced. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. What we projected back then is coming true. It's telling us that we're right, okay, in terms of what is happening to our planet as we continue to load the atmosphere with carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. What we see in the Arctic is telling us that we're right, and that we really should be concerned about what's happening there, because the Arctic is just leading the way.
Would you consider what's happening runaway climate change or runaway global meltdown? How would you characterize it in layperson's terms?
Well, if we think about the Arctic, some may ask, is it sort of a runaway system, sort of a runaway feedback, if you will, that we introduce some change and things keep snowballing and get worse and worse. To some extent, that's true, because if we think about what is happening in the Arctic, the rapidity of the change we see is indeed due to what we call these feedbacks. One of the key ones in the Arctic is something that we call an albedo feedback. Albedo is just a fancy word for the reflectivity or brightness of a surface. And of course, if you look at the Arctic from a satellite, for example, what you see is it's very white. So it reflects most of the sun's energy right back up into space. It's part of the reason, apart from, of course, the high latitude of the Arctic, that keeps the polar region cool. But as we start to warm the climate up, what happens is we start to melt some of that highly reflective snow and ice. So now it exposes darker underlying surfaces, the darker tundra or forest, the darker ocean. And because they're darker, they absorb more of the sun's energy. And so that causes a further warming, a further meltdown, and so on. Okay, so this is what we call a positive feedback, is that once you start it, okay, it keeps going in the same direction to exacerbate the initial problem. So a lot of what we're seeing in the Arctic is these sort of feedbacks kicking in. And this is a lot of the reason why changes are happening so fast. The thing about these feedbacks, though, is they can go in the other way. Okay? If we could somehow stop the global warming, which will take a long time, take a long effort, okay, we can maybe someday bring the Arctic back to what it was. But